speaking from my heart and from what Spirit has given me for you this morning. When Pat asked me to come and speak to you, I thought, oh good, I have another opportunity to express what I'm hearing from Spirit. So that's what you're going to hear this morning. And so basically, what came to my mind was the thought that what Spirit spoke to me about, I'm guessing 3 or 4 years ago. I got this very clear message, and it's sort of been a theme in my life for the last several years. And that is, Spirit said, if you only knew who you are, ... And then throughout those years, I've been filling in the ... So but basically what I've come down to is if you only knew who you are, everything in life changes. Everything changes. So the question I'm asking this morning to you is, who are you? And I'm going to let you, in your mind, put a few words on your bulletin board there in front of you in your mind, okay? So if you can answer the question. So you say, if I ask you, who are you? What would you write on the bulletin board? What would you say? Just give me a few words, not long sentences or paragraphs, just a few words, okay? So I'm going to give you a second to do that, and I'll ask the question once again. Who are you? Who are you? So write something on that board. So, hello? Who's there? Now, I'm from Indiana, and the joke is that those of us who are from Indiana are called Hoosiers, and the idea is that the people would see someone coming and they would say, who's there? Who's there? Who's your? So it became a slang term, as that's why we became Hoosiers, because we don't say, who's there? Somebody knocking at the door, who's there? I don't know if it's true or not, but that's one of the ideas. So the question is, when people are knocking and people are coming and you want to say, who's there? So how do you identify yourself? Who are you? Now, we identify ourselves either by our own consciousness of who we are, what we think we are, versus what other people think we are, okay, right? So, and there are different roles that we all play, right? Some of us are a mother, a daughter, a grandmother, or a minister, or a healer. We have different roles that we play throughout life. But when it gets down to really understanding your true self, when you come to that place, everything changes when you understand. Because those roles are just minute roles that we play, and it all comes back to our being. B-E-I-N-G, being who we are. Once again, the question is, what is that? Who are you? Throughout my life, the majority of my life, I allowed the world to tell me who I was. And the world loves to tell you who you are. Does it not? It first starts with your friends, your parents, and your schools and so forth, and they start trying to define who you are. And there were times in my life, and I remember saying, that's not me, or I don't want to be that. And they were trying to shape me and mold me, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I think, in my opinion, I had the world's greatest parents. I'm one young man who grew up with some of the best parents I could think of. And so I was very blessed, and basically overall my life I basically have chosen my path. As she mentioned earlier, I am a professional magician. I like to do magic shows and entertain people, make people laugh. I started out when I was a kid doing that. I wanted to be that, and people told me, no, you can't do that. You got to get a real job. You can't be a magician. I mean, I grew up in the cornfields of Indiana. Where are you going to do magic shows? How are you going to make a living as a magician? They didn't believe me. I didn't know that I could believe it. In fact, I went to college, got a degree. It has nothing to do with magic. Nothing to do with magic. And years later, I got this job, and it was in between jobs. Next thing you know, I'm into unemployment. And on my unemployment, I went back to start doing magic again, and I started entertaining crowds, and next thing you know, as you mentioned earlier, I started traveling around the United States, and you would believe the places I've gone, the people I've met. The point I'm making here is I didn't believe them. I believed them, but I didn't believe them. I didn't believe them because I went to college, I got a degree that had nothing to do with it, but and yet I found out that that's not me, because I was allowing the world to define who I was. And I'm sure all of you have had instances like this. You've had examples like this, where your parents or your the school. I remember my school guidance counselor was telling me I had to go to college and do all this stuff, and I couldn't really be a magician. And then 10, 15 years later, she comes to see me at my performing on the magic show. She goes, "Oh my God, I had no idea that you were this good, that you could do this, And here I was. At that point, I was sort of in the peak of my career. I was making a lot of money and traveling a lot. So it was like, wow, the fact that she showed up there at that audience, So I'm just saying, isn't it funny how we allow other people to define who we are? Now, that's not all that defines who we are. We define who we are with this earthly mind of ours. And we say, oh, I want to be that, I want to be that. Because I remember emulating other people. I'm going to say, I want to be like that. So I made a choice as to what I wanted to be like. And I would be like her for a while, but I found out later on that was not me. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. So we have this earthly mind that tells us who we are, and yet there's this spirit within us that's speaking to us our true self. And yet the earthly mind does not quite understand it. It's chattering and going on, and I want to do this, I want to do that, and we get caught up in all the drama of life and all this going on. We got to make money, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to, whatever it is that this mind thinks it has to do. And if it's not in line with the spirit within man, within you, which is your higher self, which is the divine, then there's some confusion that goes on, right? That's okay, you don't have to shake your heads, but I appreciate it. This is not TV, I'm live. I can see you. I appreciated what was read in the book here, in the principles, about the fact that we believe in infinite spirit and God is an infinite spirit. Are you? Some people don't believe that. Some people believe that they began when they were born into this world. I used to believe that, and all of a sudden Spirit said, oh no, you don't know who you are. You were a spirit being before you came into physical form. So that's why I know that when I die, I will still exist. There is existence. I will still, as you said in here, there's an individual expression here, is what it said somewhere in this. I'm reading this. This is the first time I've actually read this, to be honest with you. And I'm thinking that is so true. And yet we have a tendency to sometimes forget that, because we allow the world once again to tell us who we are. So who are you? Once again, I come back and you remember the words you wrote on the board in your mind? You remember what those words were? And even in your present consciousness, right now, in the present consciousness, in this very now moment, you are reading those words on the board, and you're allowed to allow that to define who you are. And yet, at the same time, I'm going to tell you that 6 months from now, a year from now, that may change, because your awareness of who you are may change and shift. That depends on what words you put on the board, Because we are evolving, or rather, we might say we are remembering who we are. Because what happens is, when I was in spirit form and before I came into physical form, I somehow forgot who I was. I had to forget. You know why I think we forget? You know why? Because if we knew who we were, we wouldn't want to stay. We'd be going, oh, this doesn't feel good. I don't know if I like this or not, I mean, after all, I'm having heartache and pain and hunger, and a lack of sleep and whatever, whatever it is that we experience when we come into this physical form. But I think that we know that when we come into physical form that that's what's going to happen. So we kind of give ourselves this amnesia as to forget who we are. And then all of a sudden we, the likens of you, throughout life, there's something within us that there's this awakening that takes place, right? And all of a sudden we realize who we really are. So daily, every day, we're awakening a little bit more. So I call this the awakening experience. And that's not my term. I mean, everybody uses that word. But we're all going through this awakening. We're coming to an understanding as to who we really are. Isn't this powerful? I mean, to me, it's extremely powerful because in this awakening, I change. And one of the other things that mentioned in here in your principles is the fact of measurement of happiness. I'm happier today than I ever have been in my whole life. And I've lived a very happy life. I mean, I've been very blessed. But I am so happy to know. I experience a peace that I've never experienced before. And I've had spiritual moments, and I've lived in some beautiful places. I've been in some beautiful groups like this, and where you experience this wonder, this awe, this beautiful spirit. And yet every day I get to experience a little bit more. Now it doesn't mean I don't experience, some of the negative feelings, but those moments are shorter and shorter and smaller and smaller. And I mean, I'm opening up, and I'm a big guy. When I open up, in fact, you see this? I'm like out there, like 10 feet, out there, because I'm bigger than this. And so are you. This physical expression is just a small minute of your true expression of who you are. I don't know if you believe that, but that's how I said. You know why I say that? Because I can sense you. I can sense your presence, even with my eyes closed, I can sense your presence, because you are emanating this beautiful spirit about yourself that you represent. Now, I gotta watch my time here. So, I didn't look at the clock when I started, so I got.
I'm not looking at it either.
Huh?
I'm not looking at it either.
Okay, well, we're not looking at the clock. Anyway, so one of the things that I learned, here's one of the things I learned. And he mentioned in the introduction that I studied the Enneagram. Now, you may not know what the Enneagram is, but if you do know what the Enneagram is, it's an extremely very powerful self-discovery tool, which I stumbled across back in 1998. And I became an expert in it. I've attended the international conference a couple times, and I've done numerous workshops and seminars. And in my life coaching, I use the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a personality assessment. Each one of you, not only did you choose this body as you came into physical form, but you chose this personality that is connected with this body. So as you perceive the world in physical form, you are perceiving it through the eyes of your Enneagram type, or this personality, okay? Now, there are many levels of each type. There are basically 9 types. There are 9, that's why it's called Enneagram. Enneagram means 9 types, okay? And this is like a 2,000-year-old philosophy is what it is. It's very, very old. And so there are 9 types. So even in each type, there are different levels of functioning. And so when I teach it, I like to not only help people discover who they are, but I challenge them to look at their highest level of functioning and saying, that is where you're going. That's where you're evolving. And when we all move up into our highest levels of functioning, we begin to take on the traits of the whole, of the oneness, which is beautiful, which is very extremely powerful. And so in that, we get to see who we really are. We get to see the oneness of all things. I assume you all have a recollection of what I mean when I say the oneness? Do you have, well, there's one thing to have the mental capacity in your mind as to what oneness means, and then there's the experience. So there's the mental, intellectual, and there's experience. A lot of people have some kind of an intellectual and no experience. And some people have the experience and have trouble explaining it, So we need to do both. We need to be able to not only understand what that means when we say oneness. So when I'm referring to the oneness, the mind, the earthly mind, doesn't comprehend that, but the spirit does, the spirit within you, okay? So, the reason I brought this up is because it is with that that we connect with all things. And the Enneagram is showing you a connection of all things. And as you become more aware of your spirit, it defines who you truly are. Because it is eternal, it's infinite, it is part of the infinite intelligence, okay, the God Spirit, okay? So it really knows exactly who you are. Now, you get to experience, we all have our own little paths that we chose to have different experiences as we've come here into physical form, for whatever reason they are. And that's the beauty of this, we get to make choices, okay? But there's a seed within you. There is a pattern within you, I think is part of your DNA, your spiritual DNA, and your physical DNA. I even believe it expresses in your physical DNA too. And so that is the true you, the true self within you. And we're all trying to discover what that is. And collectively, not just this group, but the whole world, is that we're evolving into this oneness. That's what we're doing. We're having this oneness experience. It's a collective consciousness. You've heard that term before, right? Okay. So what I'm saying is let's allow your higher self, that spirit within you, define who you are, and realize the moments when you're allowing the world to define who you are. And then realize the moments when you're allowing your own mind, the programs that you've been programmed, to define who you are. Because those definitions of who you are may not be true. They're part of the illusion. Okay? That's the challenge I'm giving you. Now, I will like to share with you, back to the Enneagram, the reason I find the Enneagram so powerful is because when you understand what your type is on the Enneagram, then you know what your gifts are and strengths. Your core gifts and strengths. When I did the Enneagram and I understood and I read that, I go, oh my God, I didn't realize that's why I do this. That's why I think that. Because Enneagram is all of a sudden giving you a framework to look within and say, okay, now I understand why I think this way. This is how I respond. This is why I'm compelled to go this way when I'm under stress and this way when I'm feeling good. And so now you have a place to start. Most of us don't have a place to start. We don't know who we are. We're constantly trying to figure out who we are. So if you know who you are and where you're at, then you can say, okay, here's the graph, here's the levels of function, here's where I've been living, here's where I'm going to be going. This is where I'm moving to. So that is why I do the Enneagram, and that's why I encourage you to do it. The Enneagram, you can do the assessment online for free. I have it on my website for free. If you're interested, I'd be happy to share that with you. And I'd love to come back sometime and do a workshop with you all where we spend a few hours and we go through the Enneagram assessment, and then I explain and I share with you. It's amazing what the insight you have on individuals, and I've done this numerous times, and I love doing it because people's faces just change, like, oh my God, I didn't understand. Now I understand. You know, because it's like opening the door, lifting the veil is what it's like in a sense. So anyway, my point this morning is who are you? And aside from all the Enneagram, anything that I have to offer, Spirit is really there for you to help you understand what that is. Its desire is to show you that. You know why? Because Spirit loves you. Loves you more than anything you have, any idea of what you have no idea how much Spirit loves you. And Spirit is constantly trying to show you that love. Because it is where your happiness lies. It is the fulfillment of why you're here in this physical form. Now, like I said, I believe that we all have within us these patterns, this mission or this purpose individually. I've defined mine, and I redefine it, and I redefine it all the time. And every time I do, every time I get a little bit closer to defining what that is, I find myself being happier, having a good time. I love it. Let's dance. Whatever it is that we have to do to celebrate life in this form, that's what I'm doing. And I encourage you to do it with me. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up with this. I want you to give me a couple of those things you wrote on the wall. Anybody want to share one with me? A few words, anybody? Jerry?
Child of the divine light.
What is it?
Child of the divine light.
Child of the divine light. Beautiful. Very good. Very powerful. Another one?
Or a spiritual being.
A spiritual
living
being.
A physical experience.
It's right. You know, I spoke just recently at a church up in Jacksonville, and I remember sharing with them once again. I said, "You've heard the saying before, but I'm going to ask you again: are you human having a spiritual experience, or are you a spiritual being having a human experience?" And some people thought, "I've never thought about that," but that's exactly right. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So we existed before we came in physical form. And when you understand that, as she just shared, you all of a sudden, wait a second, this changes everything, does it not? When you understand that and you live your life that way? What's some other things that are written on the wall?
I'm a perfect child of God who came in with my mission assignment to be a steward of the vision, nexus catalyst, receiver, gatherer.
You had a long list.
Yeah.
Minister.
Yes, yes, and it is
Being
true.
work.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Spark of divinity.
Spark of divinity, okay? That?
I just thought of words, loving, giving, strong.
Yes. I'm going to give you one word. Just one word. Now, divine has been one that we've seen moving around, which is part of it. And even the word spirit is definitely true. Everything you have shared is true. A child of the divine. What was another one?
Just love.
What?
Just love.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
She answered the phone. If there was one word that I gave you who you are love. You are the energy of love. And when you understand that, what that is, everything changes in your life. That's where the joy is. That's where the peace is when you understand that. And when you open yourself up and you no longer have to do this to the world and feel as though that you're having to brace yourself or protect yourself, and you realize that this love that you're looking for is coming from within you, that you are the source of this love, then everything I hear just dissipates. I mean, the love consumes it is what ends up happening. And I hope that you can have that experience as I have had numerous times throughout my life, where I've just been flooded with this love and understand that that is the true source of who I am. And if you do any study about spirit and God and infinite intelligence, we came from pure consciousness, which in my mind is I can describe as peace, love, and joy. And then we came down into physical form. So here we are in physical form, learning how to express that love, joy, and peace in physical form. That's what we're learning how to do, because that's who we are. And if you really get down to the nitty-gritty, as my sister has just shared with us, you are love. So, have I inspired you?
Yes.
I think I've said enough. And I'd love to come back sometime and be able to do the workshop for you in the future. Bless you.